We could just work with our intuition, because while we were doing this, it was really just the feeling and how to approach it. It feels like, to me, like every film in the best case should be like its own universe with own rules, how this universe functions, what principles is this universe using, and how can we solve this puzzle with like keys that help us finding where something should be.
Welcome, Evelyn Rack, to Filmmaker U today. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're busy. You've got a lot of cards behind you, so I'm assuming you're in the middle of something big.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of questions, having just seen The Sound of Falling. And first, I wanted to congratulate you and the filmmakers on such an amazing, big, complex, but story, many stories, really. But it's just so thought-provoking and, like, I don't know, to me, it's everything good art should be. And I was saying before the interview, like so often you leave a theater and it's like you forget what you've seen. It's just like it's so disposable, and this is like it just lingers and it really grabs you. And just I'm still really thinking about it. Hopefully, I get to everything. I have a ton of questions for you. The biggest question is, how did you get your start, and what led you to working on this particular film?
So the producer, her name is Maren Schmidt. We worked together on two previous projects, and one of the projects that we worked on before I came in the middle, and it was a film that needed kind of an emotional editing, or an editing where an emotional narrative is the lead instead of a classical narrative. So she approached me and said, like, listen, I do have this amazing script and I think you should read it. I think you're the right person for this film. And yeah, she was just sending it to me. And then I just opened it, and on the first page, before everything else was written, there was a quote from Bresson, and it said, like, I'd rather people feel a film before understanding it. And yeah, my heart stopped a beat, because I feel my editing approach is that I feel like film is something that wants to be experienced rather than understood. And I feel that my contribution to a film is to really shape this emotional landscape. So I felt like immediately in love with the script. And then I met Masha on Zoom, like we do now. And yeah, immediately I fell in love with her and with the project. And yeah, we decided on the spot to do it together.
I am Chad Anderson with Manhattan Edit Workshop, and I am thrilled to introduce you to an introduction to Avid Media Composer. We'll cover all the basics, from setting up the software and importing footage to editing, trimming, effects, audio, titles, media management, and everything in between. You'll have access to over 7 hours of self-paced lessons delivered in easy-to-understand segments, all with professional footage that you can download to work along with. And when you're finished with the course, you can use it to keep working or edit something of your own. We're also happy to offer live online office hours that anyone can schedule with me, so we can work out a tricky problem, review concepts, or even have a creative session to evaluate your edit. MuseShop's online introduction to Avid Media Composer is the perfect way to get a hands-on, in-person training experience in a self-paced, on-demand package. I'm Chad Anderson, and I can't wait to help you master Avid Media Composer.
I wanted to know, because the film it does follow so much of an emotional narrative. How much of that is the work that you do together in the editing room, and how much of it is sort of preconceived in terms of how the script is structured? Because it seems like it's impossible to say, I'm going to connect these pieces here and these different, I mean, for people who haven't seen the film, it's four different distinct storylines that are told and centered around the same country farmhouse environment, and different people, and some of them connected more and some of them less, but also just the different stories of trauma and pain and life. that they're going through, but connected in really interesting visual cues and audio cues. How much of that is discovery after the fact, and how much of it is like, don't tell me it's all storyboarded, I'll start crying. But
No. So most of it we discovered in the editing. So most of the scene or the whole structure we discovered. We structured the whole film in the editing. When we did a first rough cut that was based on the script. It was roughly about 3 hours, and it did not work out in the way that you could really enter the inner life and this emotional landscape of the characters. It was even that you couldn't really grasp that it's all in the same place. So yeah, we started from scratch, but that said, we already talked about it before, because as you said, like, how should something like this be written? How can you predict something, how something feels, what kind of emotions it's evoking? So we started from scratch, rearranging about 19 scenes in the editing, which was scary, but mostly exciting and big fun.
there are things that just jumped out at me. The scenes where I'm watching them and I was just sort of just completely taken aback by how an idea was expressed cinematically. Because someone, I think it was, I want to say it was, oh gosh, I can't remember. It's just a big, it's very fresh on my mind. But it was the daughter who didn't go with the mother and her sister walking, but then had this sort of fantasy of getting lost
Yeah.
and going in the river, and the what
Her name
ifs.
is
Her name is
her name is Nellie, and she's from the 2020s.
she's Lenka's sister.
Yes, she is.
Right. So and if it's, and is it Lenka's story or Nellie's story? It's hard to, there's so many characters that sort of kind of go in and out of sort of prominence and importance, but like they all have these incredibly strong moments. And that was one that was just like this sort of amazingly drawn emotional moment of many. But, it's,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to even ask how you designed sort of, is that one of the 19 scenes where you're like, let's sort of explore these sort of, I don't know, we'll call them
Yeah.
anchor scenes.
Yeah, it was like, obviously it was 90 scenes. I just calculated it one day. And if you, because as you said, they are not in a chronological order. So anything could have happened at any time. So if you calculate it and just the number of combinations that would have been possible, it's a number with 90 digits. So obviously we couldn't do trial and error. So
Right.
what we figured out quite early is like two things in the script, the death fantasies and also the death are quite early, or the first death are quite early. So Nellie's fantasy was the first imagination of dying, or death fantasy that we have. And we decided that we have to place all of it more or less to the end, or the real death and the death fantasy to start with Nellie's at a certain point. Because when we had them too early, like it was in the script, this question about what happened to them and why did it happen to them cutted this emotional narration, or that you just could fell into their experiences, because you asked yourself questions and you tried to solve a puzzle. We felt that when we were watching it in the editing room, we were distracted and we were like more curious to solve the puzzle than to just like let go and to fall into the experience. So this was one thing. And for the Nelly story. And we also figured out that, for example, in the script, the scene when Alma from the 1910s and her sister Leah are walking over the field while the harvest, it was the beginning of the film, and Nellie jumping from the hayloft also, and it was like a parallel editing. So the film started with this, and it was beautiful in the script. Like it was like mind-blowing when you read it, because it was so much happening and so much going on, and you felt like, wow, it's just overwhelming. You couldn't really decipher and what is going on. So we decided and it was, of course, a long process, that the film should start with one person's story and where you can really let yourself fall into their perspective. So we decided to first have a short scene with Erica from the 1940s where she is walking on the crutches. And we decided to do it like this because she is a character that just appears in the script 4 times, 3 or 4 times, and now in the final film 7 times. And but after that, we stay with Alma from the 1910s for nearly 20 to 25 minutes. So long that you feel like you really entered her mind and her world and her pacing and this rhythm of the film. And after that, we just started to have the first noticeable time shift where we shift to the 2020s, where the family is having a nightmare kind of situation. Yeah, and I think this was the biggest, the most important decision that we took in the editing, that it's so important to fully enter one character's perspective. And after this, when we really are, we know the place, we know the house, we know all the stairways, we know the windows, we know everything. We could have the first time shift that was really noticeable. Yeah, so we discovered this after a couple of weeks of experimenting.
Yeah, because I was disoriented in that very first shift with Erica, because it's not a particularly long
Yeah,
time that you're there, but Fritz is a through line because he exists as a younger person and an older person, and obviously with his leg, and then it's asking so many questions because first you think she has one, and then she's really just imagining life that there's an empathy associated with that. Then I don't know if it's in that same scene where she puts her finger in his belly button,
it is. It
which
is.
is then brought back at the end of the film in another time period. Like you do so many, you're they're not breadcrumbs, but there are these visual cues and echoes. That's really what I was thinking when I was watching it. Is like there's so many visual echoes, like Angelica disappearing from the photograph and Alma's mother in the photo, in that photograph, sort of as a split. It's sort of like there's two ghosts bookending the film, and I don't want to say there's a design, but it does seem like there are certain ideas that you said, look, we're going to grab onto this and turn it into something that people can, and how they connect to it is their own business. We're not going to say, oh, look, A plus B and Uncle Fritz and the fly. And it's no equation for it. It's a poetry.
So I think for us, we could just work with our intuition because when we're now talking about, I'm already reflecting about it and I can really describe what we did. But while we were doing this, it was really just like go with the feeling and how we felt like how to approach it. And yeah, so for us, we had like a really long, it feels like to me, like every film in the best case should be like its own universe with own rules, how this universe functions. And so in the beginning, we knew because we can't solve it, as I said before, with trial and error. So we felt like, okay, we have to find what principles is this universe using and how can we solve this puzzle with like keys that help us finding where something should be. So for us, it was this image about let's imagine, and Masha, I think they already had it by writing the script, like let's imagine all the characters, they are like 1 million years away in an indefinite space and time. And they look back on their lives that they had, but in a collective way. So we felt like, okay, if they look back on their lives, how would this memory work and how would this remembering work? So we felt like if we just start with Alma and the first hours just or the first 20 minutes just with Alma, it's easy to enter the film, but this unsettling tone, you said like there is there is Erica, and she's dipping with her finger in the belly button. And in the end of the scene, she's directly looking into the camera, breaking the fourth wall. So we felt like it's important not just that we set Erica really in the beginning to strengthen that we push the character, but also it felt like we need to set the tone in another way that just Alma would do on her own. And then we really decided like, how would memory work? What would we remember first? And we felt like Alma just playing with her sisters is something like a first memory, like this nice moment that you remember, like playing this prank. And from there, everything slowly unfolds. So part of this was also like with the voiceovers, they started also a bit earlier in the script, but it was like, yeah, like an onion. It like layer after layer peels down, and we get closer and closer to a center or to a trauma or however you want to call it. So this helped us to find a way to organize the footage and to organize the scenes and to get closer and closer to the finished film at one point.
Again, compliments and congratulations, because I think you've created something that's very much its own thing.
For me also, it feels like cinema is such a young art form, just about 130 years we do have cinema, and it often feels like everything is set in stone, and we like, yeah, we work and we move in all these rules, which isn't necessarily bad, but like I have a desire and a hunger for something fresh, and this film really, and also Masha with all her ideas and visions, she brought it to us. And yeah, we were always aware, we really wanted to stay always true to our feelings and not to so the structure, it should feel like you can really dive into it and shouldn't be too intellectual. You should just like lay back, and if you open yourself up to the experience, something amazing can happen to you as a viewer. And yeah, but we always felt like it shouldn't be just like an experiment, or we didn't want the form or the ideas to take over and to be bigger. So we always wanted to feel it really, really natural, and not that we are, yeah, putting rules up for ourselves that we then had to follow again. So that's really interesting. So one thing that it reminds me of is that there is one voiceover of the cousin of Angelica in the 1980s, and he's the only male character, and he gets a voiceover.
Yeah, I
And I
noticed
think
that.
this is
Yeah.
a really good example that what you were talking about, that the film is breaking its own rules kind of also all the time. So in the script, it was just the women talking and just their voiceovers. And yeah, just I think on the second or third day when we were in the editing room, Masha came and she said, since the shooting, I have this feeling that also he is kind of a additional mini main character, maybe.
Mhm.
And so just this, and while we were editing the scene with the photograph and Angelica vanishes, just like on the fly, we just like in the editing room, I have like a small setup where I can also record audio. And we just she just like recorded the audio for this voiceover, like, and it worked out so beautifully. It was like as if the scene was shot for this voiceover. And yeah, it felt like in this space in an uncertain time, yeah, gender might not be an issue, and it's just human beings, or it's just like beings remembering something collectively what
Right.
had an impact on them. So
And
yeah.
and emotional, I think, because most of the men aren't emotionally expressive in the film, that Rainier, watching him walking around unsure where she is, well, actually the way he carries himself through his portions of the film are heavy, and and uncertain, and she calls him a coward when he thinks she's going to congratulate him, and he's just, I think he does earn it. And yes, it breaks the gender rules maybe, but I think it's true to the emotional rules of the movie, if there are, if
Yeah.
there are any. Yeah, I liked him, although I didn't know what happened when he, snapped the slingshot. I was expecting more consequences, but that's the thing. This disrupts your expectations in a lot of ways, which is actually a good thing. You never find out what happens to Angelica.
Yeah.
You don't have to. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's my favorite scene that you're referring to.
the upside down
The upside
swing.
down Angelica is lying on the swing. And yeah, because for me, this scene really is like, because on the macro level of the film, the arrangement of the scenes, it's like how memory works, or how we think memory could work. But this scene for me is like a scene, like a mini version of, yeah, memory is fragmented. Yeah, there is a slingshot, but we don't know what happened afterwards. Maybe it's just an idea, maybe it's just the feeling translated into action in
Mhm.
within this memory. So yeah, I really love that scene, and also this playfulness of the image turning upside down, and yeah,
Mhm.
so
Well, also the willfulness, right? I can raise my arm or raise my leg, but I can't stop my heart. These are, it's the sort of central ideas of will and what it's like to exist. And yeah, it's just a lot of big things going on.
no.
Were there other scenes that were, sort of this is capturing something, when you were putting them together, or do they not exist as much in isolation as that Angelica scene?
Yeah, we figured out that also the because as you say, like the scenes, they have kind of a certain tonality, or they have kind of a certain aesthetic to them, or a way how they. So it wasn't like this in the script because, as I said, like in the beginning, there was this Alma and her sister flying together. It was the opening of the film, and right now the film starts quite. More classical, how the scenes are told, how the narrative, if you want to call it narrative, works. And then also the form of the film and the aesthetic of the film, they evolve and they get more and more like fragmented and more voiceover set in the end. So it was something that helped us also to organize the footage, like how dreamlike, how fragmented are the scenes themselves, and how are they set in a more realistic way. You know what I mean? Like it was helping a lot, and we felt like it had to evolve because otherwise it was too meshed up in a way. Too yeah, because there is this evolvement throughout the film that the characters they discover something, and we discover this together with them.
And I also noticed that traveling from, from time period to time period, you know, it didn't necessarily, it wasn't demonstrated by a visual shift where a sharpness or widescreen or something that is telling you, because visually there are ghosts. There is that fuzzy sort of like out of focus, that use of that sort of dreamlike, omniscient spectator in a number of different times, not just in one or the other. And it seemed like what you're trying to say is they're all one. They're all different stories, but they are all one story.
Basically, that there is kind of a timeliness, so it could happen also everything simultaneously at the same time. So there
Mhm.
is no concept of time as a linear, yeah, there's no linear concept of time. So it was yeah. So part of the shooting was also all the time layers should look the same. So just like the costume and the production design was, of course, helping us to define where we are. But also given this or taking this idea of it's like a memory going back in the memory, everything looks the same. The
Mhm.
colorit or the different, yeah, it just comes with us giving it like a linear perspective.
Right. Except for her strawberry friend,
Yes.
in the hot days, right? There is like, that's the one that exciting moment in her life is expressed in the popsicle in the bathing suit in the
Yes.
paddleboard. Um, it's a very expressive movie. I even was like, oh, the sandals on the steps when she leaves, or they were calling back to the beginning of the film when they nail the shoes down, and there was something like I mean, you probably have some mental inventory of how many echoes and references and things there are. Um, but I was trying to take notes, and I was like, at some point, I was just let the movie do its thing. Like it won't let me.
Yeah, but I'm so happy that now this image of the feet and the sandals are and the popsicle that they like are kind of the crescendo of the film, because I think they were scene 11 in the script and
Oh,
now it's
wow.
like and also yeah, so because it feels like also the belly button that we open with the belly button and we close with it. Like, yeah, when we figured out that this is falling into place like this, it feels like also magic that we were just witnessing in the editing room. And we felt like, wow, and now something really magical happened. It now it's connected just by moving the scene, maybe two scenes later. And it just made sense. So yeah. I remember the first time when we were sitting together in the editing room and we were watching the last 30 minutes of the film that were really close, or the first to the version that is the final film. And we were sitting there and we were like, we felt like, yeah, just like knocked out. And because, yeah, we could really feel how the finished film could feel. And this was the first time that something really, yeah, worked out. So, yeah, that was really special. And I think gave us a lot of inspiration also to rework the middle parts and the beginning of the film. Yeah, because it was always everything was shifting around.
Were you editing together the whole time, or were you on your own for some of it?
So we edited a lot together, not all the time. And also there is Billy. I just had her name before in my account. She is the junior editor of the project, and yeah, we were working on a shared project, and so she also knew all the footage, and she was also really involved in finding the right structure. And also the sound design, because Billy is also a sound designer by profession. So we did like most of the sound design, like all the layouts and everything already in the editing room. So yeah, so we worked on the sound, we worked on the image, we worked on the structure. So it was really like a hardcore editing situation, like in this film.
And you were together for how long? All in all.
So like from the point we started until picture lock was 10 months.
Wow.
So with breaks in between, which we needed because like we had to really, yeah, refresh yeah, our views and our perspective, yeah, perceptions. Yeah.
That's a great. Yeah, I remember editing a film and the director went away with his kids, on Christmas break. So I guess I was off work for 2 weeks, but we sat down and came back and everything was so obvious
Yeah.
because we had been so in it, just every day, and we needed to become an audience to the movie again.
Yeah.
So I think those breaks are actually really important for that.
They are. And I think also working on it like with three people, like Masha, Billy, and I, also helped to have always a fresh eye and to feedback instantly, but also not to be an outsider. So knowing all the footage, knowing all the errors, and knowing all the all the principles on how the film works, it was a really great experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. It sounds like a gift to have that much time and that sort of close collaboration. But Misha, it's Masha,
Masha.
does not edit, right? Or does she also, were you all editing or just you and Billy?
No, just me and Billy. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, but from a certain point, Billy was mainly doing the sound design, and I was doing the editing, and Masha was always like with us, and yeah, spinning around ideas and trying out stuff and playing
mhm.
around.
You were editing during the shoot, or was everything already, sort of finished, the principal photography was over and then you began?
So there was the idea of the production company in the beginning that we added throughout the shooting, but we felt like it makes no sense at all because we would need all the footage to then start really working on it. Yeah, when we have everything, because Masha and I, already 6 months before the shooting, we talked about probably everything will need to be kind of rewritten within the editing and to be shifted around. So we decided she should do the shooting, which was quite intense because it was just like 30 or 32 days of shooting with little children. And it was shot in Germany, which means when you work with children, you just have like 2.5 hours that you are allowed to work with them
Wow.
per day by law. And there was so much rain, bad weather, and yeah, the whole yard was just like underwater, and the firefighters had to come and to pump away the water. Like it was this, yeah. So she went after the shooting. She went first to she went to holidays for
Mhm.
1 or 2 weeks, and then we started. So
Yeah.
of course we arranged the footage and we worked a bit on it, and yeah.
I've talked to some editors who say they don't want to be on set. They don't want to be editing during production because the like what you said, the disasters and these things that like they don't want to be colored by the experience of the film being made. They just want the experience of the footage. They don't, it's
Yeah.
like the context is actually could be unhealthy for them.
True. And I think this is one aspect which also applies to me. I feel like, okay, I just want to have the footage and I don't want to know anything about it. And also, especially don't want to know how expensive something was, because if it's not good, it should not be in the film, no matter
Mhm.
how expensive it was. So, but I feel also that me as an editor, I really love to work with the directors in a way that we fully synchronize, that we are working as like a shared body and a shared mind, that we make something like a triangle, like me, the director, and the footage. And I feel for this to happen, that you really synchronize your ideas, your emotions. It's so helpful to start together and to really dive into the footage, and then to really, in this shared mind, something really new can arise, where it's not about which idea is better, or I think I understood it better. So it was like really working for the same film and for the same vision. And I feel like it really worked on this film really nicely. So it happens that, yeah, we just started to finish each other's sentences and really like talking like buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I mean, you want to establish that trust and that sort of symbiotic relationship. In the best case scenario, it happens, right? Not every editing experience is going to
No.
be like that, but boy, when it happens, I would assume like you'll work together again. I mean, it just seems like the I'm not gonna you're not bound by trauma, but you're bound by a film about trauma, the editing experience of which could act as a sort of, an emotional connector for you. Like, it would seem like to try to reestablish a relationship with someone where you're finishing each other's sentences and sort of like in each other's minds. It's like once you find that, and I think that's probably why directors and editors who get along and have that relationship work together over a number of projects. So, I guess I'm assuming that's the case, unless, you secretly hate each other.
No, we don't. No, no. Yeah, and I feel, yeah, again, I feel like if we don't just want to follow recipes and reproduce what's also already there, it's like, as you said, it's like mainly about trusting each other, trusting me, trusting Masha's vision, Masha trusting my instincts, and yeah,
Mhm.
just like diving into it and trying to create what feels truthful for us.
Yeah, and it almost feels, I'm not gonna, it's not obviously a documentary, but it does feel that the process seems a bit like documentary editing in that you do draw on anything. Yes, there's this spine, right,
Yeah.
of the film, but how you, you know, how you how you make the most out of that story is really up to you. Um, which is great because as an editor, you become a creator, a writer. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
do,
Yeah, and
do
for
you?
me, this is like the biggest. So I'm a documentary editor and also like fiction editor. So, and I
Mhm,
think it profits from each other. So yeah, this, when you just watch something and the scenes, they start to shift around magically in your mind. So this,
mhm.
of course, documentary film editing pushes this kind of thinking. And yeah, but this to work formally really precise, of course, is something that's really connected to fiction editing. So yeah, I feel like this project is like really like documentary film editing in its best way for fiction feature. So yeah, it was it feels like a big, yeah, like a big gift that we were all given, that I was given to, that I could edit a film like this.
Were you surprised that it, became something that was winning awards and it was like incredibly celebrated? I think this is the Foreign Academy Award.
I think the first thing that really surprised us in the best way was that we were invited to Cannes competition, because it's Masha's debut feature. It's her debut film, and there was no big sale on board at that moment. And it feels a bit like this fairy tale or Cinderella story where something happens that is usually not happening. And of course, I feel like I love most of the films I edit, and I feel like you give everything, and I just stop editing when I really love what is there. And yeah, so often films do feel special, but this film, of course, from all its approach and its visionary, and yeah, it felt like, yeah, it would be wonderful if it could just be at some place where people can, a lot of people can watch it and can also fight about it. It's also okay if like, yeah, it's pushing the boundaries. So yeah, it felt also like we were surprised, because we felt like, we have this, it's kind of low budget film there. It's Masha's first film after film school. Yeah, it's something that usually does not happen. And we were like over the moon. We were so excited. And yeah, everything that happened afterwards, like winning the jury prize and then being the entry for the Academy Awards. Yeah, and everything that's happening now is mind blowing. Yeah.
This is really interesting, and a great way to go to a movie and have to sit up and be active instead of sitting back and watching, comic book intellectual property and superheroes and that kind of stuff. So, no, it's really interesting and definitely gravity defying and rule breaking and all of these things that you want movies to be. And thought provoking, exactly. Like it's one of these, like you want people to talk about it, argue about it. I prefer it. Actually, if I went and hated this movie, that would be great, because at least I wasn't completely apathetic about it.
Yes, at least it evokes an emotion, or it evokes something. Yeah. So as you
Mhm.
said, like all these movies where you sit and they just like they rush through you and you forget them afterwards. So
Or you know what's happening. Like from the minute the movie starts, you know how it's going to end. You didn't know how it was going to end because you had the beginning, you put the end at the beginning and the beginning at the end. So I actually wanted to ask about that. So when you decided we're going to take the flying, right? That was at the scene 11, you said?
I know 11 was the belly button in the
Oh, okay.
2020s, Lenka in the belly button of Kaya. Yeah.
So when they take flight, that was the beginning.
Yes.
And so who decided maybe that should be the end?
So I think it was like we can't really say whose idea was what. We felt like obviously it can't be the opening for the film, because it raises so many questions and it
Mhm.
really blocks what the film wants. It wants people to enter the film emotionally, and so it was a process. So it was a process of, okay, there are certain sequences of themes or ideas. So in the end, there are more and more deaths. People are dying, so or vanishing, and so it felt like it was one of the scenes that was shifting around more than others, and it felt like yeah, it was just like also like a trial and error. Well, for this, like for a certain amount of time, Nellie was just jumping from the hayloft, and it was black, and that was the end of the film. And it felt like it just didn't feel right. It felt like we have to reconnect with Alma, and we have to get to a certain point that opens something up rather than closing it down. Maybe something like this. So I think it was just also we knew it needs to be close to the end, but yeah, but where? So they just like, and I think it's so nice also this flying, because when Nellie is jumping from the hayloft, it's something that is really, yeah, it's like closing, because it's really easy to understand what is happening, and it's nothing that raises a lot of questions. But why is Alma flying? What does it mean? What does it stand for? So the audience has to leave with a question, with a question mark. And yeah, I think this is why, maybe one of the reasons why it stayed in the end, because it opens up.
I maybe write down that the sound of falling and the sound of flying are the same.
Yeah,
And it was a really beautiful way to express,
it's a really
you
nice thought,
know,
by the way.
yeah, well, they are. They're both silent. There are powerful silences in the movie, and the two of the most powerful are the cut to the end and the cut in the fall prior to. And I think also you don't know for sure, but is that her sister who just, jumped off of the wagon that who's flying? Because you only see her from the back, and I've watched it a few times. Like, it seems like there is some part of her that's trying to catch her. It seems, it's sad and wistful, but um, she always had some sense of wonder inside of a lot of the dread, right? Like she's trying on the clothing of the I don't know if it's her, right? Is she dead? Is that someone else who is a sister of hers? But and that's even seen before you understand what it is. You see the hands from her looking down and the feet
Yeah.
before you understand the meaning of those images, and then it comes together. But just her curiosity is really strong. And so to see that at the end where, you know, why can't I fly with you? Why can't I fly away? It was, yeah, just great. Just like, I hope a ton of people, so I'm sure, well, the good news is I guess more people will see it because of this and talk about it, and it'll start conversations that you want people to have. And, I'm sure a lot of people are going to go, you confused me. Uh, and
Yeah, there are always these people, they want to have a family tree, and they want to know how everything is connected. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I tried to look
No,
that up, but I could. They were like, "Don't bother."
yeah, and there are not so many connections actually.
Mhm.
So yeah, if
No,
you start
Fritz
trying
was the
this,
only one that I could find who's mentioned in three of the four.
yeah, so he's the only one that is like in two time layers, more or
Right,
less.
and referred to in a third.
Yeah.
But
But we have the arm of Irm. Irm is the mother of Angelica in the 1980s.
mhm.
And her arm is one night in the 1940s. You see her arm hugging her sister. So yeah, so if you maybe she's partly sneaking into the 1940s.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. He gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career.
Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now.
Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
It really doesn't matter. Like I said, I feel like it turns into one experience that's not really of one time. It also, look, as a technical question, I'm assuming this wasn't shot on film. It looked very much like it was, but I'm assuming this was digital and just made to look like
Yes,
16
it
or
was.
something. The 4:3 aspect was intentional. And what do you know about the decision to do that? How that came
So
to be?
you mean the look of the 4:3?
Yeah, and
Or
just the choice to make it look very, very faded and flashed, and post-processed.
I think like the 4:3 image felt like it should like narrow the gaze, like that you watch it and you are really bonded, that you have to really focus on the center. Yeah, that it's centralized. So it's like you have all these pinholes and things that our characters are looking through. So the film itself also with this narrow image should also I think it refers also to this, that we are just have a glimpse into their lives. And I think this graininess of the images is like, yeah, so that memory or how you remember something, it becomes more and more grainy. And I think this choice of graininess gave us a lot of freedom to experiment how grainy can an image become. So yeah, so it was helping out. So this is my interpretation of it. So we have to talk to Fabian, the DOP. But yeah, I think it helps because it feels like, yeah, like he also experimented a lot with lenses and also with the look.
Yeah. No, it's just there's so many choices and decisions that go into something like this, and to sort of say like, wow, it looks like, you know, you see these little miracles happening here, and these are the things where it's like it feeds off each other, and that's always a great thing when it's like it all seems integral, that
Yeah.
not one thing could have been done without the other.
And what adds to this narrow image is that the sound, which is also kind of a bold choice, I have to say, it's just coming from the front, like a stereo mix. So it's not opening up to the whole cinema. So you are really forced to be to be to be watching. Yeah, it's like this pinhole effect.
We always usually we always usually that's not right. We usually end these interviews with a question about your desert island movie or something like, if you could only watch one film for the rest of your life, what would it be? I know that's a sort of a silly question, but is there anything that's particularly special to you or that influenced you in terms of in light of what you were making in this film?
Actually, I wanted to say it's maybe Alien, but it's not. So it's funny because I in my whole life I didn't watch a lot of movies, which is funny because also Masha did not watch a lot of movies. Neither did some people of the crew. And now we get this feedback that there are so many references and they see so many quotes of other films that we have never watched. So, which is nice because it feels like the film is proving itself that it's all written into us in a collective way, no matter if we ever saw it or not, we all carry it in us. So, yes. So if I would have to watch a film over and over again, it could be Sound of Falling because um, even I discover things, connections that I have never seen before when I watch it. So it's like discovering something again and again and again, like watching it again and again, discovering something new. So it's one of the films that I can still watch and I can enjoy every moment of it, which sometimes is hard when you're an editor that you can, yeah, there's a point where you cannot watch a film anymore. So,
Yeah, no, that's
yes.
high praise. To know every little nook and cranny of the film and then to still find new things in it is kind of amazing. But I know I'm watching it again because I'm sure I missed a ton and I still got a ton. So I will say thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. Evelyn Rack, congratulations on great work, a great film. Tell the rest of the folks they have a fan here in New York. I'm going to tell all my friends about it. Hopefully, we'll screen it at the psychoanalytic screening movie night because I think it's a film that really holds up to that kind of scrutiny. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.